We coming in hot, doing some Adele, Love in the Dark. Okay, if this is a foreshadowing of how season 28 is going to be, season 28 is going to be dope. Hello and welcome to the Pitchy Podcast. My name is Stephanie. Here on the Pitchy Podcast, we are passionate about good music and a great vocal. We'll use the vehicle of NBC's The Voice to give you our takes and our feedback on the contestants. We'll give our feedback on their voice and their overall performance. So here on the Pitchy Podcast, we will keep it 100 about our feedback and critiques of each contestant's vocal and overall performance. But what we are not here to do is come for any contestant, their character, or them as a human being. Now, while we might come off a little bit pitchy at times, if you know what I mean, we're going to do our best to speak our truths with love, kindness, and respect. And with that, let's get started. Happy premiere day. It is the premiere of NBC's The Voice Season 28. Now, if you are new here, hello. And if you are new here, you heard me say we a lot. Usually I do this podcast with my friend James, and he will be here for our next episode. However, he had a very important prior engagement, but we will catch up with him for the next episode. And also that leads me to my next housekeeping point. We are on Patreon. If you want to hear what James thinks about this particular episode, you need to join us on Patreon. The link is down below. Also on Patreon, we have bonus content that goes with this episode, and I'm going to continue on with that today. In our bonus content for the blind auditions, I say whether I would have turned for the contestants. If I was a coach, I talk about the contestants that did not get a chair turn. So that is what we do over at the Patreon. So I hope that you join us there. We're also going to talk about this Carson's callback. That was very interesting. Now, full disclosure, they had shared about that previously, so I knew about it. What I didn't know is that they were going to do it tonight. So they got a little bit more in depth with it, and we have a little bit more specific. So we're going to talk about that. And we're also going to talk about an article on Patreon, not here on the main feed, over on Patreon, an article that one of our patrons showed me today, which gives us more details about even more changes to the format for season 28. So if you want that bonus content, please join us on Patreon, $5 per month. Also, last thing about Patreon, every week or every episode of The Voice, I do a watch with me where you get a video of me watching a performance live as the show is going on. So I hope that you will join us on Patreon. If you love The Voice, if you love the Pitchy Podcast, if you even like us, you will love us over on Patreon. So please consider joining us. You can join for free for some limited content. You can join us for $5 per month for all the content. We have so much to get started with. I do not want to hold us up any further. So let's first talk about our first artist. Our first artist for season 28 was Aiden Ross, 20 years of age, from College Station, Texas. And he sang Love in the Dark by Adele. This how we starting season 28. I actually got on IG Live after this performance to say, this is how we coming in for season 28. We coming in hot with Aiden, doing some Adele, Love in the Dark. Okay, if this is a foreshadowing of how season 28 is going to be, season 28 is going to be dope. So the minute Aiden opened up his mouth, kind of like Snoop said, it took me 6 notes, and I was like hitting my imaginary button and saying to myself, okay, he won. The competition is over. He won. Oh my goodness. And then the second thing that came to mind was, this is a generational voice. His voice, if you see me looking over here, I have my notes. I have to have notes. His voice was clear yet emotional, and it was expansive. The chorus of Love in the Dark is so brilliant because it gives a vocalist so much space to sing. I can love. Like, there's so much space for your voice to just soar. And boy, did his voice soar. He was able to tell the story of this song with his melodic choices that were a little bit different than the original. I found myself all throughout this performance saying, come on, Choice, come on, Choice, come on, Choice. His range was outstanding. He showed deeper parts of his voice, but then he also showed falsetto. I was just like, okay, this young man's voice is radio ready. We are ready for an album yesterday. It was absolutely outstanding. And it was just, his voice is moving. This song is an emotional song anyway. If you know this song, you know the minute Adele starts singing, Take Your Eyes Off of Me, it's just like, oh my God. So it's an emotional song, yet it's a hard song. All Adele songs are really difficult. So for him to not only execute this song vocally well and also give us the emotion that we want out of this song, I was like, I need more. I need more. I need to hear more. So congratulations, Aiden. Aiden was a 4-chair turn, and he ended up going on Team Nile. So I think Nile is going to really hone into his voice, the emotion, everything that Aiden can do with his voice, and hopefully pick song choices that bring out that emotional aspect of Aiden's voice. So well done, Aiden. Let me know in the comments what y'all thought about Aiden. Aiden was on point. Oh my goodness. So next we had Mindy Miller. She is from Damascus, Maryland, but she is living in Nashville, and she's singing the current song that The Voice really loves. We've been hearing this song for the past couple of seasons. It's a Lainey Wilson song, Wildflowers and Wild Horses. Oh my goodness. Okay, so the minute Mindy opened up her mouth, I was like, ooh, ooh. It was I don't think I've ever described anybody's voice like this, but work with me here. It's a dainty yet gritty country voice. Like, there was a lightness and a femininity. I hope I said that right. Femininity to her voice, but there was also that grit, that country grit that we hear in country music. And it was a really cool, lovely blend. There was just such a lightness and a sweetness, but also that grit as well. I could hear a little bit of nerves, which, who not gonna have nerves being on The Voice, really? I think everybody has them. It's just that some people can cover them up a little bit better. But let me tell you, Miss Mindy can sing. And Miss Mindy can sing the big stuffs, I think. And when I say the big stuffs, those of you that have been around for a little while, y'all know what I mean by the big stuffs. I think Miss Mindy could take on like a ballad, like a Celine, like a big song. And I think that would she would destroy it in the best way. I think that she would sing a ballad really, really well. Because I can hear like the pop in her voice too. And maybe that's the femininity that I'm hearing, and the lightness, but there's also a depth too. It's such an interesting textured voice that, again, like I said, we've had a lot of country singers come through, but hers had a certain amount of lightness, sweetness, and femininity that I think would lend really well to like, I could hear her singing like a Leanne Rimes, How Do I Live? Something like that, something where her voice could really soar. So I thought she did a great job. I don't know how many turns she got. I didn't write that down. But what I do know is Snoop blocked Reba. They might have been the only two that turned. So she ended up on Team Snoop. So I think that that's a great get for Team Snoop in Miss Mindy. So moving on to our next artist, we had Max Chambers, 14 years of age, from Shreveport, Louisiana. And he sang I Want You Back, Jackson 5. Now, the minute Max opened up his mouth, it was very clear that he was young. He has a 14-year-old sounding voice, but not in a bad way. It's just in the tone and texture. What did not give Young was the professionalism, the pitch, the execution, the stage presence. None of that was Young at all. All of that was very mature and very much on point. As he's singing, I'm like, this sounds like Michael. This sounds like little Michael when he sang this originally. Like, it was just so close, texture wise, timbre wise, tone wise, pitch wise. And to see him up on the stage performing as well was just, it's like, this is not either this young man has been singing at church like a lot or singing in some kind of performance arena of some sort. Like, this is not this young man's first stage. You could tell it with his throat, and you could tell it, throat meaning voice. When I say throat, I mean voice. You could hear it in his throat, in the vocals, and you could also see it for as comfortable as he was on stage. So when he then revealed that he was in the musical, the MJ the musical, it was like, oh, of course you were playing young Michael. Of course you were. Of course you were. He is going to be a sponge. He may just be one of the most talented young people that we've had on this competition, and the best set up to do well in this competition because he's already experienced the rigor of being a professional entertainer, doing MJ the musical. So the hard work, the long days, the lights, camera, action is not new to him. And I think that his coach is going to just deposit so much good wisdom, tactic, vocal knowledge to him that he is really just going to be a sponge, and we are going to see Max soar on this show. Hopefully they don't act dumb and do something crazy and he's eliminated too early, because I need to hear a lot of Max. So I love how Snoop shouted out Max's parents for the job they did raising him. And it was even more so highlighted when he picked his coach, because he said he chose Mr. Bublé. I was like, that's it, young man. That is it, young man. That is how you show respect. So Michael and Reba turned for Max. And like I said, he ended up picking Mr. Bublé as his coach. And I am so excited to hear more from Max for sure. So our next contestant was Manny Costello. He's 28 years old and he's from Athens, Georgia. He sang Almost Home by Craig Morgan. Now, they kind of hit us with the okey doke with Manny, because in the B-roll before he performed, you see about their family or you see about their life in some way, shape, or form. And Manny shared that he was new to music. And I was like, uh-oh. And it was getting around that time. If you've watched the show long enough, you know that there's at least one or two people that they cut or that don't get a chair turn. So I was afraid that Manny was going to be that one because, like I said, it was getting to be around time. So, and particularly with them highlighting that he was new to music. So I'm like, oh goodness, here we go. So he starts singing the song, and I'm like, that sounds good. There was a nice twang to his voice. It's very country leaning. But he had nice pitch. He had a nice yodel. He had nice range. And I was like, wait, he's new to music. This don't sound new to music. This sound like he's been singing his whole life and he's been singing on stages for a minute. There was an interesting quality to Manny's voice. I heard 90s rock as well. So while he was singing, I was trying to think of like the tone that I was hearing, the underlying current that I was hearing, and I think that is 90s rock. And then I was saying to myself, like, I need to, like, what song would I want to hear him sing? And I think that I will want him to hear him sing some Goo Goo Dolls. I think I want to hear some Iris. He just has that kind of rock undercurrent, like I said. But here's the thing as well. And I think that the coaches, their critiques of him actually helped me to pinpoint it. There is an honest sound to his vocal and an honest quality to his delivery. He's a great storyteller and he evokes emotion as well when he sings. Now, I don't know, some of it might have been the song, but I think some of it as well is the tone of his voice. So I can't wait to hear more of Manny when he is a little more confident because I heard the nerves in him a little bit as well. But I think he has an amazing voice for somebody who is new to music. Brother, you should not have been new to music, but I'm glad you're here. I am glad that you are here now, and I hope that you stay on The Voice for a long time because I really enjoyed his performance. So he was a 2-chair turn. Snoop and Reba turned. And I think that he made Reba cry. I think he was the one that made Reba cry. So pretty much after that, Snoop didn't really have a chance. So he is on Team Reba. I think that was a really, really strong pickup for Team Reba. So next up, we had DEK of Hearts. DEK stands for the first initial of each of the members' names. We have D for Dylan, E for Amy, and K for Colin. And they sang another song that The Voice is seeming to love. Is called Heads, Carolina, Tails, California by Joe D. Messina. As you could gather, they are a trio. And what I really enjoyed about them was their harmonies were tight. If you are going to be a duo or a trio, and particularly if you are coming to The Voice, please have tight harmonies. Please, please, please. And they did. Miss Emily seems like, at least for this performance, she was the lead vocal. And what a lead vocal she was. I said, okay, we have a star on our hands. And not just because she was the only lady, but her voice had a little grit in it, had range to it, had holleration to it. It was a really, really nice sound coming out of her throat. And Dylan and Colin doing the harmonies behind her, they were wonderful. It was just, they felt like a support on either side of her. It was strong. It was rich. It was tight. Definitely Lady A-esque. Definitely Girl Named Tom-esque. I would be curious to see a couple of things. If they do anything a little bit more intricate with their arrangements, and if either one of the gentlemen steps out and takes a lead. But for this blind audition, I thought that they were excellent. I think that it probably has to be really impactful and surprising for the coaches to hear 2 or 3 part harmony when they are used to just hearing a singular voice. So Deck of Hearts was a 4 chair turn, and I can understand why. Um, it was really interesting because this is another group that Reba got really emotional about. If you've watched The Voice in the past seasons that she's been on, anytime there has been a group, she gravitates towards a group. Reba came from and sang in a group, and she really loves. She loves a group. She loves some 2 part, 3 part, 4 part harmony. So she really wanted Deck of Hearts on her team. However, this is how I knew they were not going to Reba. They stood around and kind of talked amongst themselves quietly to see who they were going to pick. And Miss Emily, I believe, turned around and said, basically, we're not just a country trio, we're a country pop trio. And when she said that, I said, oh, they're going to Nile. They're going to Nile. And sure enough, they are on Team Nile. So that was a good pickup from Nile, for Nile. And it was satisfying for him to get country leaning artists, at least, who did not go to Reba, because there was part of the B-roll saying that he never really gets country artists, especially when there are country artist coaches on the squad. So he was able to pick up one with Deck of Hearts. But with them saying that they are not just country, they're country pop, it'll be interesting to see some of the song choices that Nile picks for them because of that very fact. So be interesting to see. But congratulations to Deck of Hearts. So our next contestant was Peyton Kyle. Peyton is 26 years old I believe he's from Gainesville and lives in Tampa, or lives in Tampa and is from Gainesville. I can't remember which. He sang Talking to the Moon by Bruno Mars. Once he said that, I was like, okay, Mr. Peyton, I hope you can deliver, because this is Bruno Mars. And Bruno Mars is kind of like when you hear somebody is going to sing Adele, like, you must have the vocal to back it up. Now, when Peyton started, Peyton did not have the voice that I thought he was going to have. When I saw him, I thought he was going to have a more similar voice to our next contestant, actually. More of a kind of theatrical Steve Perry, like that kind of a voice, a bigger not classic rock, but a bigger kind of rock-ish leaning vocal, kind of like a Freddie Mercury in that vein. And that is not what Peyton delivered. What he did deliver was one of the coolest male vibratos I have ever heard on this show. And that thing lingered for days. And if you don't know what a vibrato is, it is when particularly at the end of a line, at the end of a line before a singer takes a breath. When that thing is just like a wave, it's not like, it's like, that is what Peyton's voice was doing. That thing was, and it sounded good. Sometimes when singers do their vibrato, it does not sound good. It sounds a little over the top, a little offensive, but his did not. I really enjoyed it. And maybe I enjoyed it. Not maybe. I enjoyed it. And it was a complete surprise because, again, that was not the vocal I was expecting to come out of his throat. But he had a very beautiful voice. And what was interesting is that he had some holleration to it too, because the way the song started, it was kind of more mellow, but then there were points where he just let his voice soar. He was able to produce some really cool runs and some really cool melodic, stylistic choices to the song. And I was just like, oh, wow. Like I really had to reshape what I thought his voice was going to be in my mind and just accept what I was hearing. And what I heard was just like a really sweet and tender voice. It's just like, oh, I really like this. It was one of the most unique voices of the night for sure. Um, I was afraid for him because chairs weren't turning. And then Reba's chair turned. And I was like, yes, because I definitely want to hear more from Peyton. I could tell that he was a little nervous. And I just thought that if a coach turned for him and he could get some coaching and he could get another round of experience under his belt, then we would really be able to hear and appreciate his voice. So I'm glad he has another opportunity. I'm glad he's moving on in the competition, and I cannot wait to hear more from Peyton. So our next contestant was a Ralph Edwards, 30 years of age from Fresno, California, and he sang Lights by Journey. Now, I thought this was the setup. Again, the voice makes me nervous because in watching for as many years as I've watched, patterns develop. So I knew there was going to be another cut coming up. Somebody else was not going to get a chair turn. And it was getting to be around that time. So we get to Ralph, and Ralph says that he's been watching this show from jump. Not only that, but he had tried 11 times to be on the show. And I was like, please, dear Jesus, please do not let him get to these blind auditions and nobody turns for him. Like, please, I am begging you, do not do this to this man. And then he says, before, in the B-roll stuff before he performs, he talks about how nervous he is. And I'm like, oh my God, like, oh no. And then the song starts and it's Lights. And I'm just like, and it's just Journey. And you're singing Steve Perry. This could be amazing or this could be a train wreck. And thankfully, it was amazing. Once he opened up his mouth, I was like, oh, you can sing. It's like, wait, you can sing. Why did it take 11 times for you to be on this show? Because you can really sing. And what was cool to hear from Ralph is that not only does he have like a powerful instrument, he has that holleration, he has that grit that you kind of hear in this song, but he also had a moment at the back end of the song where it got really kind of quiet and tender, and he showed that side of his voice too. I was just like, oh my God, this dude's instrument is amazing. And as I'm listening to him, I'm thinking about this song and I'm thinking to myself, like, wow, this song is a really, really great audition song if you can execute. If you can't execute this song, there's nowhere to hide because it's great and it's sabotage for the same reason. And that's because there's so many wide open spaces in the song where your voice can soar. Now, your voice will either soar or your voice will crack, or you will hear the pitch issues and the imperfections in your voice because there's so much space for your voice to soar. His voice just soared and it was gorgeous. Ralph was a four-chair turn and it was so well deserved. I was so happy for him, especially being as though this was his 11th time and he finally got to the blinds. I'm so sure that was so validating. So all the coaches are doing their different speeches and their different pitches and stuff like that. And what I thought was so cool was when it was Snoop's turn, he was making the point that people that are in his musical sphere become family. So what was cool was that he brought out people that like he writes and produces with. However, he also brought back past folks from his team. I saw the one girl, I cannot remember her name. I felt so bad. I can't remember her name, but Jeremy Belote was 1000% there. He was on, I forget what season. Don't even quote me. But I remembered him right away. I was just like, oh my goodness. So it was really cool to see that even the people that didn't win or didn't go super far was still a part of Snoop's sphere. And he was trying to make that point. I think he made it very well. And apparently he did make it very well, because when it came time for Ralph to choose, I loved Ralph's response to the question, which coach do you choose? Ralph said, I'll get that chain, Snoop. I said, I know that's right. I know that's right, Ralph. I'm gonna get them. I would get them diamonds too. Absolutely. So Ralph ended up on Team Snoop. Excellent pickup for Snoop. So our next contestant was Jack Austin, 20 years old, from Battle Creek, Michigan, which I guess is the cereal capital of the world, or of the country, not of the world. And he took a big risk. Jack Austin took a big risk by singing This Town by Now. I love this song. What it reminded me of as I was listening to Jack's performance was, man, this song is hard. This is a hard song, particularly when you get to it's hard. Like, it really goes down. Like, I didn't realize like the ends of the verses, or the ends of the lines, or the ends of those little small phrases. When it goes down, I was like, man, this is not an easy song to sing. In melody and in tempo, because Niall is saying a lot of words in a very quick amount of time. And this is a mid-tempo song for sure. So it was really interesting to hear it from that perspective as Jack was performing. So I thought that Jack had really good pitch. I thought that he was telling the story of the song really well. I thought that he made some really cool, and you could see Niall. What was cool was you could see Niall react to some of the choices that Jack was making. Like, oh, that was nice. Oh, that was nice. It is such a risk to sing a song of one of the coaches, because some coaches are really, really, really strict. And their critiques are harsher for folks that sing their songs. Like, their songs are their babies. So they can be really super critical. And I really appreciated the fact that it seemed like Niall was more honored to hear somebody do his song and kind of approached it that way, which I thought was really cool. I did hear some nerves. I don't know that I heard pitch issues. What I thought about Jack's voice is I thought Jack had a really, really great voice. I just didn't think that it stood out like some of the other voices of the show that were on the show tonight. However, he had a really, really great voice. So I was really glad that he got a 3-chair turn. Niall, Reba, and Michael turned for him. And yeah, the minute that Niall decided to go up and sing with him, I was like, well, we know whose team he's on. We could have known just by whose song he was singing, but we knew whose team Jack was going to be on. Jack decided to go with Team Niall, and I think that they are a very good pairing. So our last artist of the night, and I know what you're saying, but we're going to talk about the artist that did not make it through True. We had 2 artists that did not make it through. We're going to talk about them in the Patreon. But before we do that, we have one last artist to talk about, and that is Miss Jazz McKenzie. Now, Jazz is 31 from Birmingham, Alabama, and she sang What's Love Got to Do With It by Tina Turner. What's love got to do with it? Who needs a heart when a heart can be broken? this was our sneak peek for today. The Voice actually released this performance this afternoon, which I was shocked about because usually they do a Friday leak. And what they ended up leaking on Friday was the coach's performance that we saw at the top of the episode. But they ended up, I was just kind of going through YouTube and I was like, wait, that says season 28. So I had to listen to it immediately. I reacted to it. You can see that on Instagram. You probably see it on YouTube as well, but you can definitely see the full reaction to Jazz's performance. My initial live real-time reaction to her performance of What's Love Got to Do with It on IG. Pitchy Podcast, at the Pitchy Podcast. First of all, I love Jazz's family. Okay. I'm like, can I come over? When's y'all next cookout? Like, I want to come over. Their family just seem like my family, kind of. They seem very familiar to me. Very close, very sweet, very warm. The dad was joking, like she been like this like all her life. I love that. And then Jazz opens her mouth and there's holleration, there's great tone. It's just a professional sound. The stage presence was gorgeous. Just R&B deliciousness, just come on choice, just delicious alto lows and richness. But then you also have this gospel holleration, this gospel cadence to her voice, this gritty gospel flavoring, this Holy Ghost holler in her voice. Like, she's got to be a worship leader or she sang in church. I refuse to believe that some part of that is not true. I could hear the all, as we like to say on the Pitchy Podcast. I could hear the all on her throat. It was just a stellar performance of a really wonderful, another really, really great Blind Audition song, because the song has levels and layers. And you heard in Niall's feedback, I believe, to one of our artists that didn't make it through, that they didn't hear enough dynamics, or they didn't hear enough variation in the vocals. So it's really great to have a song that can start in one place and then build and take it to another place so that the coaches can hear all the dimensions of the vocal. And I thought that this song did that. And I thought Jazz did that really well. Oh my goodness. It was phenomenal. She was another one where it was like 3 seconds in, I'm like hitting my imaginary button, like, oh, I don't need to hear no more. I know you can sing. I want to hear some more because it's that good, but I don't need to hear anymore because I know you can sing. So this one, as far as the coaches goes, was really interesting because she was a 4-chair turn. However, Reba used her block to block Snoop. And Snoop didn't even realize it until he was about to start talking to her and pitch for her. So this was another one of these instances where, the voice goes over the top. They did the Reba fan. I forget what else they did, but for this particular performance, was it Bublé? Yeah, Bublé brought out his, he brought out Irish dancers. I'm still trying to figure out why he did that. This show is interesting sometimes. Anyway, when that whole thing was over, and it was funny because Niall started actually doing an Irish jig. Snoop started crip walking. I don't know what Michael was out there doing, but they were all dancing or whatever. And when it was done, he was like, "This probably didn't even help." But in the end, it did, because she ended up choosing Michael as her coach. So, y'all, this was an outstanding first night. I'm so excited. I'm so hyped. I feel like the first night usually sets the tone, and I hope I'm not wrong. The first night usually sets the tone of the entire season. And if tonight is setting the tone for the entire season, then we are in for an incredible season. All right, friends. Well, it is time for me to let you know all the things that you don't know. If you don't know them, if you're new here, here's all the things that you need to know. Don't forget to follow and subscribe to the Pitchy Podcast on your favorite podcast platform. And while you're there, especially if you are on Apple Podcasts, please rate us with 5 stars and leave a kind review so more friends can find us, particularly if they are fans of NBC's The Voice. And then go ahead and hop on over to YouTube, search for The Pitchy Podcast and hit that subscribe button so you know when we drop a new video. Don't forget we are on Instagram and TikTok at The Pitchy Podcast, and we are also on Blue Sky at thepitchypodcast.bsky.social for new episode alerts, episode clips, and so much more. Also, please don't forget that we are on Patreon. Only $5 per month for so much bonus content. You can watch me watch one of the performances live. You will get bonus content pertaining to the episode of The Voice. We talk about, we meaning me and my co-host James this week, or this episode is just me. I talk about who I would have hit my button for. We talk about the artists that did not make it through, did not get a chair turn. We talk about the Carson callback, and we talk about all the other changes for season 28, because the Carson callback is not the only one. So if you want that bonus content, $5 per month. The link is down in the description or right down below, and we hope you join us in our Patreon community. So thank you so much for being here. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Let me know in the comments who your favorite artist was for this episode, whose voice blew you away, who do you think, do we have the winner? I think that we might have a couple potential winners from tonight. Let me know if you think so too in the comments below. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.